Well, hello and welcome to the Moviegoers Society podcast brought to you by Nerdtropolis. I'm your host, Sean Tajver, the mayor of Nerdtropolis. And joining me as always is my co-host, the professional media movie mastermind, Drew Manhausen. And let me know what you thought about that intro.
It was perfect. It was great. Had me jamming.
Yes, today we're talking about probably one of the wildest sequels we've probably seen, M3GAN 2.0. And we'll dive into that in a little bit, but finally got to have date night, Drew. We had date night last night.
We did. It was nice. You had your new popcorn bucket that you had freshly purchased, your Jurassic World popcorn bucket.
Man, you're supposed to keep that a secret till Jurassic World comes out. Oh, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to spoil.
No, you're just spoiling that we have a lot of episodes coming everyone's way. Got a lot of interviews, a lot of reviews, tons of stuff happening at Nerdtropolis, but we do want to dive right into this movie just because it's so fresh in our mind. My full review is up on nerdtropolis.com, but I'm just going to be honest right off the gate. The first M3GAN film, I did not vibe with at all. I felt that film was super cringy, not really horror, and not saying this one's horror, but like I was expecting more horrific stuff in that one. So my expectations were actually pretty low for the first M3GAN film, and I just didn't like it. Just total cringe.
I remember that too, because I think because that was before you and I were doing this show, and on my other podcast, Fresh Out the Podcast, I remember you came on as a guest around that time. I can't remember what we reviewed, maybe like Ant-Man and the Wasp or something like that, and M3GAN was like still kind of fresh on the mind. And I remember you and Gary and Jahan all on that show like not being a huge fan of the first M3GAN, and I was the one kind of defending it a little bit. And I'm not saying it's like amazing by any means, but I liked it more than all of you did.
Well, right off the bat, Emmanuel's saying M3GAN greater than M3GAN 2.0, and I'm just gonna say real quick, I beg to differ on that one.
Yeah, I also I'll come out and say I disagree, but we'll get into it.
We're gonna get into it. But my expectations were low also for this one. I saw maybe some of the trailer for this sequel. Way more intense those trailers were. They seemed more fun. And after watching this film, I'm kind of on board with the M3GAN train, honestly. I'm kind of sold on this. And I feel like this is a movie that really just sucked in the craziness of it. Went off the rails, and not to compliment, honestly, like just was bonkers. Super self-aware, hilarious, creepy when it wants to be. But also, Drew, we'll get into it, but it had its issues with pacing and being super long, not enough M3GAN, and maybe too much Gemma drama. So first off, I'm gonna ask you, Drew, your first thoughts walking out of the film, and did it grab you more than the original?
Yes, it did. And I think my first thought was that while this is definitely an imperfect movie, which I think is the same thing I said about 28 Years Later, which is a movie that I liked a lot more than this one. But still, like, I feel like they took the right lessons from the first M3GAN in this movie. If you remember, the first M3GAN kind of had this viral marketing campaign that I don't know if they even could have planned for, but like the scenes from M3GAN in the trailer dancing and fighting down the hallway went viral, and like that was a TikTok clip and a trend that was, shown everywhere. And so I think that they got lucky with the campaign for that one. So the first M3GAN movie, did really well. At a $12 million budget, it made almost $200 million. Like, of course they made a sequel and they're expanding the world. And this one has a lot of those same kind of viral moments. Not that you can create a viral moment, but I'm saying like tonally the same, right? Like they took those things and like, oh, these things that went viral from the first movie, we're going to have more of it, make it bigger. I'm surprised that this movie, the budget that's listed here, is not significantly higher than the first one, despite this one feeling way bigger than the first one. All that to say, a lot of the plot like didn't all necessarily make sense, or you kind of lose the thread at times of like the true intricacies of it. But at the end of the day, you understand like who the protagonists are, who the villain is, and what they're trying to do. And
do you though?
From that standpoint, it works.
No spoilers, but do you though?
I thought it was pretty well telegraphed, personally.
For those not really familiar with the plot of this movie, it takes place 2 years after the first M3GAN, and it follows a new military-grade weapon robot named Amelia, who is built by a defense contractor who stole M3GAN's underlying tech, and it's kind of a cat and mouse game that's pretty fun, and we'd like to tease it and call it's the M3GAN Judgment Day, a film.
It is, yeah, exactly. This is the Terminator 2ification of M3GAN, right? The difference being that in the original M3GAN was created not for nefarious means, right? Like M3GAN was created to be a companion or a friend robot, for a child, and then in the need to protect the child takes a turn that becomes deadly, right? And then you have this one where M3GAN has since been destroyed. There is no more M3GAN. Oh, in comes bigger, badder robot. We need M3GAN back to fight this robot. So, very much Terminator 2
as M3GAN on her last legs or no legs.
Yes.
I do want to talk about the human side before we dive into all the robotics. I'm glad the cast is back. They're good. But like the characters Gemma and Katie, I actually like Katie more than Gemma, and we see Katie in here. I like her a lot. Gemma, who was, if I can find this one, I'm not a fan of Gemma for a lot of reasons. I can't really explain them, but she's not that likable and comes off as very weak and needs the help of others. Even though she's supposed to be brilliant, she doesn't come off as brilliant to me. There's a lot of Gemma, maybe too much Gemma. And then obviously we do get a new villain that we'll get into. But what do you think about the human side?
Thing, or is it an Allison Williams thing for you?
I think it's a Gemma thing. I have nothing. I like the actress. It's the character, honestly.
I haven't really seen her in that. I mean, obviously in the M3GAN movies, and I've seen Get Out, which she is, villainous character in. So that works. But I haven't seen. I know that she really got her start, or like the TV show Girls really kickstarted her career, and that's a show I didn't watch. So.
No, I like.
Yeah, I just haven't seen her in that much.
I like her as an actress. I just think that character is pretty bland in my eyes.
Yeah.
Just as someone that created M3GAN, but really doesn't show off the intellect or the strength, and seems pretty weak. But especially when you put her against Katie, I think I would rather follow Katie's story instead of Gemma's story, and it's more about Katie, but like kind of doesn't feel that way at times. So, what did you feel about the human side of things? Did you enjoy the human elements and some of the characters? I mean, they do make some funny scenes, but I could do without them, honestly. There's too many of them.
Yeah, I agree. I like Katie a lot, and for a young actress, she does pretty well, and I'm glad that the cast returned. I even like the two, I don't know the names. I guess it's Tess and Cole, who are like basically Gemma's co-workers. Like, I like them, and I remembered them from the first movie. And so, I'm glad that they were here, but I think the big issue is there's so much setting up the plot in this movie and getting to a point where we can even bring M3GAN back. Don't get me wrong. M3GAN is a presence throughout the entire movie, which is good, but like, there's just a lot of the humans when like we're here for M3GAN. Right, like it's M3GAN 2.0. She's on the posters, she's in the trailers, she's dancing, she's singing. Like, we want M3GAN, and it really kind of takes a while to get there. And I feel like there's a version of this movie that maybe could have been cut down to make it a little bit more compact. So yes, like I like the human characters. There's just too much of them in this one.
Right, and we meet M3GAN like this pretty much. Leads to this type of M3GAN you see in the back, and then this is the final form M3GAN pretty much. Right here, I don't know as far as robotics, but M3GAN seems similar to Alita Battle Angel.
Yeah, there's similar vibes there for sure.
No, I dig it. And then we obviously there's this new villain, Amelia, total Terminator vibes, slick, creepy. I mean, honestly, one of the best parts of the sequel, but I also think she gets the short end of the stick too. It would have been fun just seeing her do more at the same time, or even follow her point of view. Would have been awesome.
The villain Amelia, played by, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but Ivanna Sakhno, maybe. Sakhno, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but who looks strikingly like Elizabeth Olsen. I thought, like, it's, it's not her, but it's kind of uncanny valley because she very much resembles Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch herself.
Yeah, but I thought she was really great. I wanted to see, she's pretty awesome, like pretty strong. We laughed at the beginning sequence for many reasons because of the political climate as well. I thought it was oddly timed, and a wild coincidence. I would say that, but I liked having her in this. I will go back to my biggest issue at M3GAN 2.0 is we don't get enough M3GAN in the first half. We do get some Amelia, but not enough. Too much of that human element, building up the emotional arc too between Gemma and Katie again. I was like, let's get over this, have them battle it out or something, because I'm tired of them having these issues since the first film. I really came here for this like dull robotic chaos that we see later on that takes forever to get to. Looked at the runtime because we talked about it. The first one I believe is like an hour 40, 45. This one's like, and the sequel is close to 2 hours, an hour 55. So some extra time to do nothing, because it was really slow, a lot of pacing. But once M3GAN is back, the movie does deliver. Robot versus robot showdown, awesome. But we waited too long for them to battle it out, and I wish we saw it like Terminator 2. I'm not saying rip off the movie, but why not have it, this cat and mouse from early on and have them go at each other often, honestly.
Luckily, and I see Emmanuel's comment in the chat, which is true. Like, the plot's too convoluted, could have used some rewrite. Sure, like, it is definitely way too convoluted. Luckily, it doesn't ever take itself too seriously through that. So even though they're like planting a lot of seeds and laying out a lot, it's also like very light and fluffy the whole time. And I appreciated that. A lot of humor throughout. Some of the gags worked, like the origin of AI basically going back to like a copy machine company called, I believe it's called Xerox in the movie. So not Xerox. But close enough. And, basically being almost like this Nintendo-esque AI that's been growing, its mind has steadily been growing since the 80s. I thought all that was like fun and silly and kind of stupid, but like the whole thing with M3GAN is kind of stupid, and that's what makes it fun.
I mean, a lot of it is stupid fun, I would call it, but
yes,
it just takes a while to get to the fun. But one thing really did stand out to me is the sequel really had a bigger budget, it seemed like. Glossier, fancier. Even that awesome car that's probably was mostly fake, probably mostly CG too, looked really cool. Just everything, even some of the action and some of the robotics that they were showing and some of the other tech stuff looked really awesome. The action is sharper, but I really wished it leaned more on the R-rated side. It did at times, but not enough.
Yeah, that's a big part of this too. I think it's pretty glaring throughout the movie, and I get it, right? Like, M3GAN is a movie made to appeal to the TikTok crowd. So you want to make it PG-13 to have the crowds come out. Like, I understand it, but it just means that there's a lot of deaths that like take place off screen or right as the character's about to get, their throat slit or whatever. It's a quick cut, and maybe you see a silhouette shadow on the wall, or you see, you just hear a scream and it cuts away. It's a lot of cutting away that by the end of a 2-hour runtime, it becomes really noticeable that a lot of the gore is kept simple or done off screen.
There was a couple of
keep
shots,
the rating down.
A couple of shots though felt R-rated. Some of the arms that were cut off. Was there a vertebrae pulled off too? Like a vertebrae was pulled out.
There's some limbs and things like that, but there's even in those scenes, there's kind of a lack of blood to make it less gory. So I think that's how they were able to get away with it. It did have a well-placed use of the one F-bomb that they were able to drop in a PG-13 movie, and some other workarounds for the language too. It all works. It really, I would say for PG-13, it is pushing the line at times, but just again, when you have a movie that's so much action and there's so much cutting away or getting around the gore, it's like, yeah, the PG-13 is kind of glaring.
I was going to follow with this, and Emmanuel just nailed it for me too, because I was going to ask, would you want to see an unrated cut of this? And then also Emmanuel was saying maybe they'll release a R-rated or unrated version of Peacock like they did for the last film. I didn't catch that one, but I felt like there wasn't much really to add from the first film, maybe a couple scenes. I felt like an unrated version or R-rated would better this film than it would have the original.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the unrated version that they released on Peacock of the first one. I will say this, you and I talked about this a little bit before the screening, and it's worth noting. Just the way that rights work for streaming stuff now is so weird. Obviously, Blumhouse is through Universal. The original M3GAN got its first run on streaming on Peacock. And I remember it came out on Peacock and then they advertised the unrated cut on Peacock. However, now, 2.5 years later, you cannot watch M3GAN or the unrated cut on Peacock. They're not there anymore because they, go wherever they go and they're not streaming anywhere. So you had, the only way you could watch it is to buy it on iTunes or whatever. I think it's like $7.99 on iTunes right now, discounted, which is great. But I was like, okay, I wanted to rewatch it before seeing the new one, but I also didn't really care enough to pay $8 to rewatch it. So I didn't. Had it been on Peacock, I would have streamed it. But a service that I pay for so that I can have the Universal Blumhouse movies. But yet it's not on there. So go figure.
Yeah, it's a weird world we live in. And M3GAN reflects on a lot of weird stuff going on in our world. Dials into tech satire, giving us social commentary on AI, government oversight, tech weaponization, while all being bonkers. So I definitely love the commentary on all that stuff this film really offers. It knows what it is. It's not trying to be horror, which I'm glad, because I don't think horror works when you have like an AI sentient robot. You could do so much with that genre, but you got to lean more into the sci-fi aspect of it. Definitely very meme worthy of a movie as well. And it's a genre blending film.
Yeah, I don't know if people would take this as a spoiler or will be mad to hear this, but I'm just going to say it. I don't think that there's a single jump scare in this movie. There are like horror adjacent scenes or scenes that are, could be a jump, but they're just so telegraphed that I didn't jump a single time in this movie. It is way more about the action and the comedy,
which I'm fine with. I don't need jump scares. M3GAN's not the type of film that needs it, honestly. And going forward, we don't need it. But I love the satire. You thought all that worked for it, or did it get a little lost in the chaos, or did you like some of the social commentary at all? So
I thought all that worked. It's a lot of satire mixed with camp, and that's I like that kind of stuff in general.
I will say I am a believer of a M3GAN cinematic universe. I'm ready for crossovers. I'm ready to take M3GAN to like the Fast and Furious franchise and just make 10 of them, however you want to do it. It's a really ridiculous concept, and what they showed, what they can do with the sequel, they can do a lot with it. Clear setup for a extensive world and to keep exploring it. Would you watch M3GAN 3.0 and beyond?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, what would you want to see in the franchise?
If they keep putting these out and they're funny and have action, I'm here for it. I'll go see these. I think that they're a pretty good time, although not great. I do think M3GAN 2.0 is better than M3GAN, but like that's going to say that I thought M3GAN was like a 3-star out of 5 movie, and M3GAN 2.0 is like a 3 or a 3.5, out of 5. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, the sequel is smarter, it is funnier, and a lot more fun than the first. Just because I wasn't sure what the first film was trying to be. I felt like it was kind of had an identity crisis, I guess you can call it. But I just love all the action in this too, and the total ripoff almost. That's not a ripoff, but a lot of things to T2. I liked it. I wish there was time travel though. If there was some time travel, it would have been awesome. Maybe M3GAN 3.0 will have a M3GAN from the future come back in time to tell them, they need to stop something.
If I'm remembering correctly, I do feel like the marketing for the first one really did sell it more as a horror movie. Like I remember it being kind of creepy and eerie in the trailers. And then it had some of those moments, but really it was kind of camp and funny too. And didn't take itself too seriously. And this one just takes all of that and ups it times 10 in every way.
If you had to pick a franchise to cross it over with, what would it be? Funny thing is, Emmanuel says, M3GAN versus Chucky is my wish. I don't want to see doll versus doll almost. I kind of want to see something more ridiculous than that. But what would you want to see a crossover with
You
M3GAN?
could almost do like M3GAN and Orphan, also, the Orphan franchise. Um, Chucky's actually a decent answer. Another series that has just gone totally off the rails and doesn't take itself too seriously after the first one being kind of more of your standard horror movie. That's a series that just continued to get more and more bonkers as it went on.
I just want to see time traveling be introduced in this world of M3GAN. It's totally possible.
You know what? Why not? Like, let's just have the M3GAN series go the route of the Fast and the Furious franchise, where the first one is like a little grounded and then they just get bigger and bigger. And how can we keep one upping ourselves? And maybe M3GAN will be time traveling or going, multi multiversal. Like, who knows? The sky's the limit for M3GAN. The M3GAN. Oh man, is that the new MCU? It's the M3CU, right? The M3GAN Cinematic
No,
Universe.
it's just still the MCU, the M3GAN Cinematic Universe. She can rip off. She can rip off things. That's what she likes to do.
Yeah,
She likes to rip off body parts, rip off some storylines. I mean, why not rip everything off? There you go. The new MCU, the M3GAN Cinematic Universe, and M3GAN 3.0. If might happen if the box office agrees, or I don't know what Blumhouse is doing. They've been on and off. That's all I can say. I don't know how they're surviving, but they are. They just bought the Saw franchise too.
I mean, I can tell you how they're surviving. They're surviving by making movies on a low budget that even if the movies don't work that well, they tend to at least make back their budget, right? Like Drop, a movie that you and I both liked to varying extent, right? Made for $11 million, made almost $30 million. Yeah, that's not like an overwhelming success, but it almost tripled its budget. So like we're doing just fine. But then you get a M3GAN that's made for $12 million and it makes almost $200 million. So I think I think that strategy is really good. And I like what Blumhouse has been doing. I've really enjoyed what they've been doing for a while. I think you just get varying degrees of success with the low budgets, but when they work really well.
Well, we have to see how the Mummy is going to be when they release that one too. Lee Cronin's The Mummy, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out too.
I mean, here's another Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Made for $20 million, made almost $300 million, which obviously that's a video game franchise and it's very popular. There's a sequel to that coming out this year, I think. So I would expect that one's going to do pretty well.
This Christmas-ish.
And then those fund your Woman in the Yards or your Drops or your Imaginaries or your Night Swims.
Is Black Phone 2 Blumhouse?
I believe Black Phone 2 is Blumhouse. That is correct.
Yeah. They got some good stuff, but for me, I think they're misses more than hits, or they're just subtle. They're smaller hits of movies. I mean, they don't have the major impacts that you would expect. They kind of fizzle a little bit with Halloween. So I don't know. And we'll see what they do with the Saw franchise. Maybe that's going to be their new way, getting past Halloween. Grab a new big franchise. They were trying to do Jason, but I believe that's Friday the 13th is now A24.
The Jason rights are like really, talk about convoluted. Look up the history of the Friday the 13th franchise and Jason. It is weird. I thought they were supposed to be making a series for Peacock.
They're filming already. They've already filming it, and that's what I was trying to see of who is behind that one. Because I believe A24, because it's called Crystal Lake and it has started production already. But I'm just trying to find. Yeah, it's produced by A24. Blumhouse lost that one. That would have been a good one for Blumhouse over Saw, I feel like. I just don't know what they're going to do with Saw. To continue it, reboot it, I don't know. But I'm always here to see what they do. I'm very interested in their company because it's very different than what we've seen for the other studios. Because they work kind of like an independent studio, like a very small studio, but they deliver really great products at the end of the day. All their films are shiny, look great. They're not low quality, just lower budget, but they pull it off. I'm very impressed by them at the end of the day still.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Any final thoughts, Drew, on M3GAN? Just hopefully no one builds a real M3GAN in real life, right?
Yeah, let's hope not. I think that, there is a lot of social commentary in it. Some of it's pretty obvious, and it's all very relevant right now with just talks of AI and things. But I felt like at times I'm like, okay, how many times are you going to tell me that we shouldn't be on phones or we shouldn't be using tech or we overuse, all that kind of stuff. But just at least M3GAN doesn't take itself seriously enough that I can still laugh at everything.
Yeah. Looking forward to M3GAN 3.0 though, but that is a wrap for this episode of the Moviegoers Society. If you've seen M3GAN 2.0 or are going to watch it, just let us know what you thought. Did it slay? Did it stall? Are you ready for more M3GAN? Or done with M3GAN. But be sure to subscribe for more reviews, hot takes, deep dives. Don't forget to follow Nerdtropolis across all social medias. Make sure you check out our website. Follow Drew and I on our socials as well. Once again, I'm Sean Toshworth, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and
I'm Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind.
And we will see you at the movies.